At the end of the semester, I have to assign you a grade in the course. And one thing that I really try to do is be fair in grading because I think what a grade does, in part at least, it gives you some feedback as to how you, in fact, performed in this particular course. It's not a measure of your value as a person, it's not a measure of the value of your life, but rather it's the measure of your accomplishments within the course. And as a result, I try to do grading on an objective basis, and I try to I try to use a system that really mimics grading in life. And the system that I use is something called specifications grading. And the idea is, if you think about it, this is the same kind of valuation that happens if you go for a professional licensing exam, be it a medical exam or to be a nurse, to be a doctor, to be a dentist, to be a lawyer. That is, you don't have to get a certain score, and it's not that they give you a score in it, but rather you either have done well enough to pass it to prove that you're competent, or that you have not reached that level. So the idea is to define what a passing requirement is for everything that we're going to assess you. And I figured out a way of doing it which makes it easier because a lot of people just give a series of assignments and they have a certain mathematical equation that they're applying. But I'm sorry, it seems that I've bounced to the wrong slide. Okay, back here. But the way I try to grade you is in a very professional manner, and I'm going to assign points. Ultimately, it's going to add up to points, but it really is. You don't have to get 100 in everything to get an A in the course.
Rather than talking in the abstract about how your grade's going to be made up and how it works, I'm going to talk about the specific numbers, the components, and how it's all going to add up to a total score, which is going to be then mapped to the letter grades that you get at the end of the semester. Well, the first component of your grade is going to be your assignments, quizzes, case studies, and online discussions or in class discussions. Um, that will be worth a total of as much as 61 points. That's the highest you could get. There will be two objective tests, that is exams. That is, either they're going to be multiple choice or short answer or a combination of the two. They're going to be worth a total of 14 points, which means 7 points apiece. And I reserve the right to replace the two tests with more shorter quizzes. Okay. It's a writing intensive course, so you're going to be required to submit one paper. In addition to that paper, you will have to submit a draft on the way. That will be worth a total of 20 points. And I'm going to be adding points to the course total for showing improvement over the semester, or I usually don't take you down if you've gone downhill, but sometimes I can if it's really bad. But notice I'm requiring one paper. There's a possibility of doing two papers. We just split the points in that case, or give you the highest depending on what we decide at the end of the semester. But then I'm leaving that open. So those are the things that make up your grade. Now, rather than grading them on some numerical points for all of them, I have a specific grading scale. And by the way, the way this is supposed to work is that you're getting points for passing. Passing doesn't mean 100%. It's never going to mean 100%, but rather getting a good enough grade. It works the way a lot of professional licensing exams work. That is, there's a certain cutoff, and they say to get, to pass the exam, you need to get a certain percentage of questions right. In fact, I think that's the way if you've taken the written exam for a driver's license in New York State, I think, at least in my day, that's the way it worked. That is, they give you a certain number of questions, and you you'd have to get at least so many right, or only a very few wrong. But the way the assignment's going to work, that is the quizzes, the discussions that you write, etc., is that the highest number of points you'll get from that is 61 points. That is, I'm thinking that's kind of passing. So if you submit 80% of those assignments, and not only do you have to submit them, but it has to be relevant to the question that's being asked when you're doing the discussions. They're going to have to show that you at least tried. You're going to get the same credit towards that 80%, whether you got the answer completely wrong and you're way off base, or whether you wrote the best answer that's ever been written. But they have to show that you really tried as opposed to just submitted something or other. Now, if you don't quite hit the 80% mark, I don't want to, and keep in mind, if you don't get points in this category, it's going to be you'll see later on, it's going to be very difficult to pass the course. I'm going to award 55%, 55 points if you submit 70 to 79% of those assignments showing a good faith effort. I mean, you really have to try. There's no reason that anybody cannot get 61 points in this particular area in the class, none whatsoever. Now, there are going to be two objective exams, probably around 30 questions apiece. Don't worry, don't get nervous. I have reviews beforehand. We'll go over, you'll understand exactly what you're getting. And if you pass the exam, and in my case, it's going to be 70% of the answers correct, you're going to get 7 points for passing, 0 points if you don't pass. But if you don't bother doing it, you don't bother submitting it, you're going to get, it says 6.5, it should say 6 points deducted for failing to submit it on time. Okay, now paper. If you have a passing paper, that is, it shows a good understanding of the material, and you've acquired the skills that I'm trying to get you to acquire, they're trying to teach you during the course of the semester, you're going to get 10 points. So that's a decent paper, good paper. Not a crummy paper. A crummy paper is not going to be non-pass. You'll get 20 points if you do a really good job. So there are really two categories here. There's going to be a pass and a high pass, and a paper that exhibits a mastery of the material and skills. That doesn't mean that you have a PhD in philosophy and you can teach the course. It means for somebody in this introductory level course, you've done a really good job. You'll get 20 points on that. You're going to lose 25 points from the total if the paper is not submitted in a timely fashion. Okay, if you don't submit it, you're going to lose 25 points, and it's going to make it very difficult for you to get a passing grade at that point. And it's a writing intensive course, so that's why it's set up this way. Now, I should mention that I'm going to be adding points for participating, that is to your total average, for participating, for showing improvement during the course of the semester. And one other thing I want to mention is I will probably at least assign a second paper as extra credit and or an honors paper if you qualify to do that for an honors enrichment component. We'll talk about that later. And what I will probably do is count that as half of your paper grade, or if it's really good, maybe even more of that. Maybe I'll only take you, if you're doing an extra credit paper, maybe I'll only consider the higher of the two papers, the higher grade that you got in that. Okay, so that's the grading scale, and that's how you're going to have to get by. You're going to have to pass a certain amount of work to get a grade in the class. Now let's turn to how the grades are going to work overall in the class.
Now, let's see how that figures in to calculating a course grade. If you get 95 points, so if you were looking at it, let's say you get 65 points, you've done the assignments that you need to. You've passed both the midterm and the final. That gives you another 10 points. You're up to a 75. And you get a high pass on both of the papers. That gives you the full 25 points. That's how you'll get a 95. That's how you will get 95 points, and that will get you an A in the course. If you do the same kind of thing, do the 65%, sorry, do the 80%, hand in 80% of the assignments, get the 65 points there, pass the midterm and the final, the objective part, which will get you another 10 points, will get you up to 75. And then if you pass both papers, get you another 10 points, that will get you to up to 85. So that's how you will be able to earn a B in the course. Now, and this is for Sue, if you have real problems writing and you're not getting in what you need to, uh, or if you can earn 75 points, thinking of it this way, that is, let's say you get 65 points for doing 80% of the assignments. And let's say you pass one of the objective tests but not the other, and you pass one of the papers but not the other, that will get you a total of 65 and another 10 points, 75 points. That will earn you a C in the class. Oops. Now, if you manage to lose points, etc., and get in the about 65 points, you will end up with a D in the course. Now, I'll be assigning like A pluses, A minus pluses, and minuses will be awarded for scores that fall between these two, between any of these thresholds of scores. And if you don't make it to 65, you'll get to do a total of 65 points. You will get an F, failure in the course. If you violated the academic integrity policy, which we'll talk about in a little while, plagiarism, if you've copied something and you have not, and in this course, there shouldn't be that much that you're ever copying, because I'm going to ask you to write papers that are expressing your own understanding of the concepts. So you shouldn't be, you should be able to do that without quoting anybody, but you may quote people in the process. But if you do not make it clear that you're quoting somebody, but you're handing it as if it's your own, that's a case of a violation of academic integrity policy, and that could earn you either a D or an F in the course. I usually give you a D in the course because with an F you can take the course over again. With a D, if you get assigned a D, you can still take the course. I should say, if you get an F, you can take the course over again, and whatever grade you get the second time wipes out your F. With a D, if you take the course over again, which you can, the two grades get averaged together, so the D will still pull it down, and it's a punitive grade. It is punishing you for violating the academic integrity policy. The same thing will be true for getting caught cheating on any of the objective exams, and even if they're being done online, I have caught people cheating on those exams. Now, there's also a grade of WU. It really stands for unofficial withdrawal, and if you fail to submit enough work, the equivalent of stopping to attend classes, and you're allowed, if you're attending classes, 6 hours that you haven't attended, nothing to receive a you get a buy for 6 hours. More than 6 hours, you can receive this WU. So if you haven't handed in enough work, the equivalent that you kind of stopped attending, you may end up with a WU in the course. So that's the way the course grading is going to work. And as I mentioned, there'll be opportunities for getting extra credit and pumping up your grades.